welcome to our deep dive into how to win friends and influence people.
Yeah.
I guess you're here because you're interested in, like, I don't know, building better relationships, making a bigger impact.
Yeah, and this book's got tons of advice on doing just that.
We're going to get into some really cool takeaways and stories and some stuff about how people tick.
Some surprising stuff, too.
Yeah, whether you're, prepping for some big presentation at work, trying to figure out your personal relationships, or just curious about this classic book.
I think you'll find some really useful stuff here.
Okay, let's just dive right in.
Yeah.
The first part is called Fundamental Techniques in Handling People. And it starts with a pretty big idea, shifting from a fault-finding mindset to one that's focused on appreciation.
Right, and that unlocks a lot more influence than you'd think.
Okay, so the book, it argues that criticizing people, it often backfires.
Yeah, it puts people on the defensive.
Makes sense.
And it breeds resentment rather than cooperation.
So, how do you actually, I don't know, how do you do that?
Well, Carnegie, he illustrates this with a story about John D. Rockefeller Jr.
Oh, yeah.
During a big strike at his company, instead of lashing out at the workers, he actually praised them for their peaceful conduct.
Wow.
And this unexpected approach, it helped de-escalate the whole thing.
That's a pretty powerful example of, how just appreciating someone, even when there's conflict, can totally shift the mood.
Exactly. And Carnegie really stresses that this appreciation, it can't be fake. It has to be genuine.
Right. I don't know, you really have to mean it.
Exactly. He tells this great story about Edward Bach, who was just an office boy.
Right.
And he would write these letters to famous people just out of, pure admiration.
Okay.
And because he was so genuinely interested, he ended up getting mentored by some of these people.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
It's pretty cool.
So it's not about brown-nosing or sucking up.
No.
It's about finding things that you genuinely admire.
Exactly.
And expressing that sincerely. Yeah. Okay, so the second part of the book, it focuses on 6 ways to make people like you. The first one is to become genuinely interested in other people.
Right.
Now, this seems pretty obvious, but I think we all get caught up in our own stuff sometimes and forget to really listen.
Yeah, I think that's true.
You can figure out what other people are into.
Yeah, I think we all do that.
What do you think?
It's like that old saying, to have a friend, be a friend. But Carnegie, he takes it a step further by comparing human interaction to fishing.
Okay.
You wouldn't use strawberries and cream to catch a fish.
Right.
You got to use what they actually want. You got to speak to their interests and needs.
Oh, I see.
If you really want to connect with them.
That's such a good analogy.
It's pretty good, right?
And there's a great anecdote about a salesman who's trying to, make a deal with the president of a company.
Right.
And he finds out that this president collects stamps for his son.
Oh, that's a good one.
So he uses that knowledge to get a meeting and build a relationship.
Yeah, that's a classic example.
And it ends up being a really strong connection.
A little effort, understanding their interests can go a long way. It shows you actually care about them.
As a person.
Yeah, not just, what they can do for you.
Right.
And sometimes the smallest things make a difference. Carnegie also highlights how important just smiling is.
Smiling?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds kind of trivial.
It does.
But I guess, when someone smiles at you, you feel a little better.
It creates more positive atmosphere, right?
Right.
Makes people feel comfortable, more at ease. He even tells this heartwarming Christmas story to show how much impact even a small smile can have.
Oh, wow.
It's a reminder that small acts of kindness, they can really brighten someone's day.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like when you're, having a bad day and then someone smiles and
you're
like, oh, okay. And, while we're talking about these little things that make a big difference, Carnegie also talks about remembering names.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It's so easy to forget.
It is.
When someone remembers your name, it's like, wow, they actually, they see me.
Yeah. You're not just another face in the crowd.
Exactly.
It's about recognizing their worth, showing them that basic respect.
Now, this next principle is something that I think is super important, being a good listener.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in thinking about what you're going to say next.
Yeah.
But really listening to someone without judging them.
Mm-hmm.
Such a powerful way to connect.
Yeah, and Carnegie actually shares a story about a sales representative.
Oh, really?
Named Edward M. Sykes Jr. And
what did he do?
He kept a customer simply because he took the time to talk to the soda clerk.
Really?
It sounds small.
That's wild.
But it actually influenced the owner's decision to stay loyal to him as a customer.
It shows that even those little interactions can really matter.
Yeah, every interaction has that potential.
So it's not just about, like passively listening. It's about really engaging with what they're saying and showing that you care.
Exactly.
And on that note, Carnegie, he talks about the importance of speaking in terms of their interests.
Oh, that's key.
Now, this isn't about manipulating people, right?
No. It's about finding that common ground, building that rapport.
Like, what are they passionate about?
Exactly.
What gets them excited?
There's a great story about a salesman named C.M. Naffel.
Okay.
And he was trying to win over this chain store executive who he actually, he kind of disliked before.
Oh, really?
But instead of trying to just sell him on his product, he actually asked for the executive's help on a debate topic, appealing to his expertise and passions.
So he kind of flipped the script.
Yeah, he made it a partnership, a mutual respect thing,
Wow, that's really clever.
Yeah.
Okay, last one for this section. Carnegie highlights the importance of making the other person feel important.
Yes.
But doing it genuinely.
Right.
Like actually meaning it.
He shares this nice story about a lawyer who just complimented his wife's elderly aunt on her house.
Okay.
This simple act of kindness led to a real connection and a great conversation.
That's so sweet.
It's a reminder that everyone, no matter who they are, wants to feel appreciated.
Valued.
Respected.
And it's something we can all do.
Right.
No matter who we are.
Right.
Okay, so we've covered the first two parts of the book.
Yeah.
Handling people and making them like you. This has been so interesting. I'm really starting to see how these simple ideas can have a huge impact.
They really can. And in the next part, we'll get into the strategies for winning people to your way of thinking.
I can't wait to hear more. I bet our listeners are excited too.
I bet they are. This is where it gets good.
All right, so we're diving into part 3 of how to win friends and influence people.
This is the part about how to win people to your way of thinking.
This is where things get tricky.
Yeah, for sure. This is about persuasion,
Yeah, how to navigate disagreements and stuff.
Yeah, and Carnegie's got some really interesting ideas about how to do it effectively.
Okay, well, the first principle in this section is avoid arguments, which seems, I don't know, kind of counterintuitive.
It does, right? Especially these days.
Everyone's got an opinion.
Everyone's arguing online.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, like, how practical is that, really?
Well, it's tough to avoid them completely.
Right.
But his point is, arguments, they rarely actually change anyone's mind.
Yeah, they usually just make people dig in more.
And they can really hurt relationships, too.
That's true.
He tells this story about an income tax consultant who's dealing with this really stubborn tax inspector. And instead of arguing with him, he actually just expressed admiration for the inspector's job, and for his expertise.
So he kind of disarmed him?
Exactly. And it actually created a much better environment for discussion.
So instead of trying to win, you're trying to understand.
You got it. You're trying to find that common ground,
Which leads perfectly into the next principle. Show respect for the other person's opinions.
Yeah, even when you totally disagree.
Right. Even if you're like, are you kidding me?
Exactly. Acknowledge their right to their opinion.
It helps keep things calm.
Yeah, keeps the conversation going,
And speaking of admitting when we're wrong, Carnegie, he also says it's important to admit your own mistakes.
Quickly and emphatically.
Yeah. Even though it can be hard, I imagine it makes the other person more open to hearing what you had to say.
Right. Like you're not just being a hypocrite.
Yeah, exactly.
He tells this cautionary tale about this attorney who lost his case at the Supreme Court because he basically told one of the justices that they were wrong.
Oh, no.
Sometimes our ego, it gets in the way, you know.
For sure.
Okay, this next principle is really relevant, I think, especially now with everything being online. Begin in a friendly way.
Okay.
Sounds simple enough.
It does?
But you'd be surprised how often people forget it.
Especially when we're stressed or angry about something.
Exactly.
It's so easy to just fire off that email.
Oh, yeah, I've done that.
And then regret it later.
Yeah, but it's so much better to just, take a breath and be friendly and respectful.
Makes a big difference.
Huge difference. He actually references John D. Rockefeller's approach to dealing with those coal miners.
The ones that wanted to hang him?
Yeah. He starts by being friendly and respectful, and it totally de-escalates the situation. That attitude, that tone, it's so powerful.
Okay, so the next principle is...
It's a little more tactical.
Okay.
Get the other person saying yes immediately.
Yes. Why is that so important?
Well, Carnegie says getting those little yeses early on,
Okay.
it just sets a more positive tone,
Oh, what's it?
creates this kind of momentum,
Okay.
and it makes the other person more open to your ideas later on.
So instead of starting with what we disagree on,
Right.
you find what we agree on.
Exactly. You build from there.
And then once you've got that momentum going, you let the other person do a great deal of the talking.
Oh, yeah. This is a good one.
I love this one. I'm definitely a good listener.
Me too.
But it's not just about being polite, right?
No, you're gathering information, understanding their perspective.
Yeah, you're really trying to see where they're coming from.
Carnegie tells this great story about a textile salesman
Okay.
who ends up getting this huge order.
Oh, wow.
But only after he loses his voice.
What?
So he's forced to just let the customer talk.
So the customer's just like going on and on.
Yeah, but by listening, he figures out exactly what the customer needs.
Oh, that's so funny.
And then he tailors his pitch perfectly.
Okay, next one. Let the other person feel that the idea is his or hers.
Oh, this is about empowerment.
Yeah, making them feel like they came up with the solution.
Exactly. Instead of just telling them what to do.
It's more collaborative.
Right. It leads to more buy-in, more enthusiasm.
So you're guiding them to discover the solution themselves.
He tells this story about Adolf Seltz, a sales manager.
Okay.
And he turns his whole team around just by asking them what they expected from him.
Oh, well.
And what he could expect from them.
That's simple.
Yeah, but it made them feel valued, like they were part of the process.
Okay, so now we're getting to the heart of what makes Carnegie's approach so effective.
Okay, what's that?
These last two principles.
Yeah.
Try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view.
Okay.
And be sympathetic to the other person's ideas and desires.
Yeah, these are all about building that real understanding, that empathy.
Right, like putting aside your own ego
Sure.
and really trying to see where they're coming from.
He goes even deeper than that. He wants us to understand why people think and feel the way they do.
Even if we don't agree.
Even if we don't. He uses this example of Al Capone,
Oh, wow.
you know, the gangster.
Yeah.
He says if we can understand Capone's upbringing, his environment, maybe we can get a better grasp of how he became who he was.
So it's like everyone has a story.
Exactly.
Even people who do bad things.
It's not about excusing their behavior. It's about recognizing that we're all complex.
That we're all products of our experiences.
Exactly. And he tells this funny story about a time he messed up in a speech.
What happened?
He said Louisa May Alcott's house was in New Hampshire instead of Massachusetts.
Oops.
Yeah, and he got all these angry letters from Alcott fans.
Oh, my God.
It's funny, but it shows how passionate people are about their hometowns, their heroes, their beliefs.
And being sympathetic to the other person's ideas and desires goes even further.
Okay.
It's not just about seeing their point of view.
Yeah.
It's about acknowledging their feelings.
Exactly.
Even when you don't agree.
It's about creating that safe space, you know?
Where they feel heard.
Yeah, where they can express themselves without being judged.
This is really hard, especially when you're talking to someone who has totally opposite beliefs.
It is. It takes work.
How do you stay true to your own beliefs
Right.
while still being sympathetic to someone who thinks the opposite?
It's a delicate balance, yeah. It's about separating the person from their ideas.
So you can disagree with the idea,
Right.
but not dismiss the person.
Exactly.
Okay, so these principles for winning people over,
Yeah.
they're so insightful.
Right.
And they really build on what we talked about before.
Yeah, the handling people and making them like you.
It's all connected.
It is. And in the next part, we're going to see how Carnegie applies these principles to leadership.
Oh, I can't wait. Leading people effectively without making them mad.
Right.
Sounds like a real challenge.
It is. It's a real art form.
All right, we're on to the last part of how to win friends and influence people.
The part about being a leader.
Yeah, being a leader. How to change people without giving offense or arousing resentment.
Oh, this is good stuff.
This feels like, putting it all together.
It is.
All those principles we talked about, handling people, building relationships, persuading them,
Right.
and now using it all to be a better leader.
It's about taking those one-on-one interactions and figuring out how to motivate an entire group.
Inspire them.
Exactly.
Okay, so Carnegie, he starts this section off with, begin with praise and honest appreciation.
Oh, yeah. That sounds familiar.
Didn't we already talk about this?
We did. It's a big theme throughout the book.
It keeps coming back.
It does. And for leadership, it's especially important.
Okay, so why is that?
Well, starting with something positive.
Yeah.
It just creates a much better environment for any feedback you need to give.
So it's not just about, sandwiching the criticism.
Right. No.
Between two compliments.
It's about genuinely appreciating people's efforts and accomplishments.
Yeah, I've definitely had bosses who were, like, super quick to point out mistakes.
Yeah.
But never really said anything good.
That doesn't motivate anybody.
It's so demoralizing.
Right.
Okay, so how do you do this well?
Well, Carnegie talks about President McKinley and how he had to reject this campaign speech.
Oh.
But instead of just saying no,
Yeah.
he starts by praising the good parts of the speech.
Okay.
And then gently suggests some changes.
So it's all about how you frame it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're trying to be respectful.
Yeah.
But also clear about what needs to improve.
Okay, the next principle is call attention to people's mistakes indirectly.
Oh, yeah. This is a good one.
This reminds me of that story with Charles Schwab and the no smoking sign.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic.
Instead of yelling at the employees who are smoking,
right.
he gives them each a cigar.
He's like, here, go smoke these outside.
Such a funny way to handle it.
It's brilliant. Leading by example, using humor to make it less awkward.
Okay, now this next one really speaks to me. Talk about your own mistakes first.
Oh, yeah, this is huge.
It's so much easier to take criticism from someone who's willing to admit when they mess up.
Right. It makes them seem more human, relatable.
Carnegie actually talks about catching himself before criticizing his secretary.
Oh, really?
Because he'd made the same mistake himself when he was younger.
It's a good reminder for all of us, right?
Yeah, to stay humble.
We all make mistakes.
We're all learning.
Exactly.
Okay, this next principle is super important for leaders, I think. Ask questions instead of giving direct orders.
Oh, that's about empowering people, right?
Yeah, letting them think for themselves.
Instead of just telling them what to do.
It's like that saying, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day.
Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime.
Exactly. You're teaching them how to solve problems.
You're building up their confidence.
You're helping them grow.
And that makes them more invested in the outcome, right?
And when people do make mistakes, it's important to let the other person save face.
Oh, yeah, this is about respect.
Yeah, even when someone screws up.
Nobody wants to be humiliated.
Especially at work.
It can really damage their confidence.
Carnegie tells this story about Charles Steinmetz.
Oh, yeah, the brilliant engineer.
And how General Electric had to remove him from a leadership position.
Right, but they did it in a way that let him keep his dignity.
They gave him a new title.
Same responsibilities, but someone else was managing the department.
They found a way to make it work.
It's about being effective, but also compassionate.
Okay, which brings us to how to spur people on to success.
This is about motivation.
Inspiration, helping people reach their full potential.
And guess what? It starts with...
Oh, no, not again.
Praise and honest appreciation.
It's everywhere.
It's the foundation.
Okay, I get it.
It's that important.
You got to start with the positive.
Right. Recognize people's strengths, their accomplishments.
It sets the tone for everything else.
And then to really get people going, you use encouragement.
Okay.
Make the fault seem easy to correct.
Like, don't make it a big deal.
Right. Focus on the positive.
This reminds me of that story about Carnegie's friend learning to dance.
Oh, yeah. The one with the two different teachers.
The first teacher was so critical.
Yeah. Made him feel terrible.
But the second teacher, he was encouraging.
Focused on his natural rhythm.
Yeah, he made him feel like he could actually get better.
Sometimes all it takes is a little encouragement.
And the right kind of feedback.
Exactly.
Okay, next principle. Give the other person a fine reputation to live up to.
This is an interesting one.
What does that even mean?
It's about giving people the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
Assuming the best of them.
And expecting them to rise to the occasion.
Exactly. He gives this example of Colonel House talking to William Jennings Bryan.
Okay.
Bryan really wanted to be sent to Europe as a peace emissary.
Oh, wow.
But Colonel House tells him he's too important to be sent abroad.
Just like reverse psychology.
Kind of. You're giving them a reputation to live up to.
They don't want to disappoint you.
Exactly. And finally, the last principle. Making people glad to do what you want.
This feels like the grand finale.
It is. It's about bringing all these principles together.
All this wisdom about human nature.
To create a leadership style that's both effective and inspiring.
So it's not about manipulating people?
No, it's about understanding what motivates them.
What makes them tick.
And aligning your requests with their goals.
Finding that win-win situation.
He tells this story about a manager, Gunter Schmidt, who got an employee to price items correctly by making it into a game.
A game?
Yeah. He made it fun, engaging.
Wow. This has been such an amazing deep dive into How to Win Friends and Influence People.
I know, it's so insightful.
It's crazy how relevant this book still is.
It really is, almost 100 years later.
It's all about those basic human needs, you know?
Yeah, feeling appreciated, respected, valued.
And those principles apply everywhere.
In our relationships, at work, even in leadership.
So to wrap things up, I want to leave you with a question to think about.
Okay.
What's one principle from this book that you can start using today?
To improve your relationships.
Maybe it's smiling more or listening better.
Finding things to appreciate about the people around you.
Even small changes can make a big difference.
And remember, it's a journey.
We're always learning and growing.
Right. Exactly.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into how to win friends and influence people.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you found it helpful and inspiring.
We'll see you next time.
Keep learning, keep growing, and keep making those connections.